And to help us unpack the story, we have with us Ambassador Mohan Kumar, former senior diplomat and strategic affairs expert. Uh, Ambassador Mohan Kumar, what's the point of this nuclear strategic parity that Trump hopes to achieve through this testing? None of these weapons can ever be used. We all know that. So, how far can threats go?
The first thing to note is that you have a comprehensive test ban treaty, which was agreed upon in 1996. And after that, really, apart from India, Pakistan, and North Korea, and everybody knows how this all happened, the other countries have really not tested at all. So there is an informal understanding that there will be no testing of nuclear weapons, and that is because it has implications for the environment, it has implications for human health. More than anything else, as your bureau report pointed out, there is likely now to be a global arms race. If one country tests, the other countries are not going to keep quiet. The reason for testing, Mark, is that you need to test in order to make sure that the nuclear warheads are effective. Computer simulations and other lab simulations can only take you this far. Ultimately, you need to test it at some point, but then testing actually then leads to improvement of weapons, expenditure on weapons, and the other countries cannot keep quiet. You cannot have one country take such an insurmountable lead in terms of quality of weapons. Otherwise, your equilibrium that you have struggled to establish over the last 30 years falls apart. Just to put things in perspective, US and Russia hold
Right.
90% of the warheads. China is catching up slowly but steadily. And then, of course, you've got France, you've got UK, you've got India, you've got Pakistan, you've got North Korea, you've, of course, got
Sure.
Israel, which does not announce. So I really think this announcement, if you like, sets the cat among the pigeons, so to speak. We'll have to wait and see whether they're going to make good on this promise or it's just a statement that kind of, tells others that, listen, don't test, otherwise we are capable of doing it.
Indeed, and well, you did mention all the nuclear-powered states, but nuclear technology in the age of AI can, possibly be developed by non-nuclear states too. It's not like this technology cannot be derived. After all, supercomputers and artificial intelligence can probably, find out the solutions. So, will this encourage an arms race and lead to a greatly unsafe world? If, because the US is doing it, because Russia is doing it, because China is doing it, everybody else decides to do it.
So, two things, Mark, you're absolutely right. I think it has the potential to unleash a disturbing arms race. That's one. Second, I think the conflict in Ukraine has demonstrated something to a lot of countries which voluntarily gave up their weapons or their ability to make nuclear weapons under the NPT. Ukraine, if it had had the nuclear weapons, which it gave up when Soviet Union disintegrated and then went back to Russia. But imagine a hypothetical scenario today that if Ukraine had had those nuclear weapons, perhaps Russia would not be in the kind of position it is. And Russia now and then does say that we will use the nuclear weapons if we are pushed to it
Right.
and if there is an existential threat. So that, I think, has made a number of countries sit up and take notice and say that, listen, maybe we shouldn't have completely given up our ability to possess nuclear weapons. So there is a double barrel danger in this announcement. One, among the established legal nuclear powers, it could unleash an arms race. Second, countries which have not or which have voluntarily given up nuclear weapons may start having second thoughts. And
Exactly.
both of those things are bad news.
Indeed, and is it possible also, I mean, you did mention the environmental issues, to prioritize the existential risk to the earth over, the deterrence that these countries seek? And if that happens, I mean, which agencies are going to be doing that? Will the IAEA be involved? I mean, the UN, these kind of things?
I think the trouble is that there has been such a weakening of multilateral institutions across the board that IAEA is also not immune to it. We all know what happened in the case of Iran
Right.
possessing nuclear weapons and the role played by inspectors and so on. So it becomes very, very difficult in these circumstances to kind of do these inspections and so on. At the end of the day, I think countries have to accept that these are weapons of mass destruction and they're really not meant for use in many ways. So if you kind of mess with the equilibrium, then you have a problem. As it is, the announcement by some countries, including the US, that they will have a golden dome in terms of a shield against weapons, that will also be a problem because if one country has a shield, then that country is put at a tremendous advantage. They can stop the first use of nuclear weapons by the adversary, and they will be intact to use the nuclear weapons against the adversary. That completely goes against the principle of MAD, which is
Right.
mutually assured destruction. So these are technically difficult and very, very sensitive subjects. The perhaps the only silver lining I can see in all this is that you can make the announcement to test, but I think it will take several months before even the US can actually test. So
Okay.
hopefully there is scope for dialogue between US and Russia in the first instance. And even during the Biden administration's time, attempts have been made to incorporate China because China is catching up.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
still far behind, but it's catching up. So Joe Biden had actually suggested a trilateral dialogue, which is US, Russia, China. But China has always refused that, saying that, listen, our numbers are so small, don't include us in this dialogue. We don't want to be part of a dialogue which limits our weapons. So, all in all, this disturbs the global equilibrium, if you
Indeed.
like.
So the one that maintains the global equilibrium is the UN. You did mention about the fact that these multilateral institutions are becoming much weaker. But is this a time then to drive home that point that we need to have that serious reform that takes place? And after all, what can be done to strengthen these institutions against the major P5 countries that are basically participating in this so-called arms race?
Oh, I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, I think the need of the hour is dialogue, and the need of the hour is really try to strengthen existing mechanisms of the International Atomic Energy Agency, give them the kind of supervisory powers, and we should make sure there is no political interference in their work, and if necessary, actually establish new mechanisms so that countries can follow the rules when it comes to something as sensitive and as dangerous as nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction.
And finally, how important is economic power at a time like this? Will these strategic moves to seek, nuclear parity and all that, will this make countries that have them use military power to sort of weaponize trade and disrupt the global system, which is already disrupted because of the wars and various other things?
No, I think you're right. Two things will happen. One, of course, there will be an attempt to use it in the military and security sphere. I also worry about the amount of money that will be spent in this area trying to develop new weapons and new technology at a time when that money can be better used in the world to meet the SDG goals or to meet other requirements that humanity needs so badly. After all, Ukraine needs money for reconstruction. Africa needs money for generally getting out of poverty. Climate change is an issue that has been ignored. To kind of set aside all this and then just focus on spending more and more money on the military industrial complex seems such a daft idea. So, from that point of view, also it is disturbing.
Ambassador Mohan Kumar, thank you for your clarity on this issue.